Jason Gilbo at JGilbo11. With me is Nick Tasso at The Inefficient 2. Taking a look at pitching on DraftKings and FanDuel tonight. A couple kind of clear-cut options, and then maybe some guys you can get behind. But overall, I mean, it's a relatively weak slate for pitching.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think there are a few lower mid-price guys that you can kind of take chances on in GPPs. But like you said, there's overall two really clear-cut options, and the rest, they still could have a decent chance of good nights.
Yeah, definitely. And the first one here, you got Cubs and Phillies. John Lester versus Adam Morgan. Chicago, the biggest favorites on the day here, minus 233, over-under of 8. And Lester's that guy who is the clear-cut number one, and he's your automatic cash game guy on FanDuel, and usually a guy on DraftKings that you're kind of just starting off with, regardless of format tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at Lester 2 starts ago, he faced the same team, different ballpark here, so you're not sure how it's going to go. But he's coming off a complete game, the 10 strikeouts in the game against the Phillies last time out. He had 7, so he's definitely coming into this game on a real high note.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you look at this Phillies lineup. I mean, they're not good against lefties. 29th in WOBA this season, 24.1% strikeouts. So with Lester, I mean, you expect that strikeout rate to continue. It's right about 25% this season. And as far as a win goes, I mean, he's pretty much a lock on this slate.
Yeah, I agree with you. You look at the other side with Adam Morgan, he's been really bad this year. So I think even if Lester has one of those so-so outings, he's kind of guaranteed to get the win here.
Yeah, definitely. Next game here, you got Angels and Yankees, Matt Schumacher versus Masahiro Tanaka. Over-under of 8, Yankees minus 145 favorites there. Schumacher's coming into this series. I mean, he's pitched relatively well over the last couple of starts. Still a guy I'm kind of hesitant on always, just because of one. I mean, he's extremely home run prone, and now you're putting him in Yankee Stadium with some of these bats who do have some pop. Even though the Yankees haven't really been a strong offense, they don't strike out a ton, and Schumacher's kind of faced a couple teams that do have heavy K rates, so I'm a little bit iffy on him in tonight's matchup.
Yeah, I'm staying away from him. You look at the last game, and he pitched pretty well, but he still gave up 10 hits. In the 2 previous games, I think they were kind of an aberration. So I think he's definitely going to kind of regress here. You look at his start, the way he started the season, and it was just atrocious, like literally the worst pitcher out there. And I don't think all of a sudden he's gotten it back together.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, his peripheral numbers are still not in favor of him continuing at this rate.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't mind Tanaka in this matchup because there's a good chance he might get the win. He pitches somewhat decently at Yankee Stadium. He's very familiar with it. And this Angels team, they're really up and down, and I don't have a lot of faith in them.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Tanaka, I mean, I'm glad his price tag's a little bit lower on DK at 8,300. FanDuel, he's not really in play for me just because this Angels team doesn't strike out a ton. And I think you kind of need that punch-out upside at that price tag. And with Matt's being 9,700 right there with them, and kind of you can even just spin up to Lester. I think more so on DK, he's in play.
Yeah, absolutely. His price is really nice. It's only 8,300 or so on DraftKings, and you can kind of fit him in there with Lester or even Matt and round out a pretty good roster. Yeah,
definitely. Next one here, you got the Royals and Orioles, Danny Duffy versus Mike Wright. Over-under of 9. This game's a pick-em, Baltimore minus 105. In Camden Yards with these two offenses, I think I'm just kind of staying away from both guys, and really I'm going to be circling a lot of hitters in this game.
Yeah, I agree with you on there. I might throw Danny Duffy in a few GPPs just because his price is so low, and it's shown that he's able to pitch a little bit deeper into games, more than 5 innings, which they usually were only going to let him do. So he's kind of stretched out now. And I know the Orioles have a lot of righties, but they were quiet for the most part yesterday against CC, and they're kind of a streaky team, and I'm just not sure if they're really on the right path right now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I can see using Duffy. I mean, you're looking at the Orioles. I mean, 26th in WOBA against lefties this year, 20.6% strikeout rate. I mean, they haven't really been that great outside of Trumbo. Machado's a reverse splits guy. Obviously, Davis lefty-lefty matchup. So in the bottom half, I mean, it's kind of nothing really special to it. So I don't mind Duffy in GPPs. I think you're looking at him as kind of a guy who you're looking to pair up with the top option, and you can just stack pretty much any kind of bat you want.
No, absolutely. His price is just so low that if he doesn't blow up at the under 5,000 on DraftKings, I mean, that's a really real good steal right there. And then you look on the flip side, I'm saying far away from Mike Wright.
Yeah, definitely. Mets Pirates here. Steven Matz versus John Neese. Over under of 8 here. The Mets are minus 111 favorites. Um, I'm a big fan of Matz. I think you look at this Pirates offense, and I think it might scare some people off. And obviously, Matt's last start against the White Sox wasn't, too appealing. But you look at this Pirates team. I mean, they do have a lot of right-handers. But you look at Marte and McCutcheon. I mean, they haven't really hit lefties well this year, especially McCutcheon in comparison to his usual rate. Cervelli banged up, and you obviously got Harrison and Mercer who hit lefties well. But by far, I mean, Matz is just kind of the second most talented pitcher on the slate here, and I don't mind him in PNC at this price.
Yeah, I actually don't even mind him as my top option instead of Lester, just because you look at this offense with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and they just haven't, like you said, they haven't been really good, and they've had a lot of injuries recently. You look at their lineup yesterday against the lefty, and they had Matt Joyce in there, who never faces lefties. So it's kind of a concerning thing. They had Jody Mercer leading off, and they've had Francisco Cervelli's been out, and everyone just really seemed to get hurt at the same time. So I think Matt's kind of has one of the best offenses to go against in this night games.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, and you look at the Pirates. I mean, yes, they do rank up there in WOBA against lefties, but a 23.8% strikeout rate, so we know Matz can kind of have that upside. And also, I mean, you got to like PNC Park kind of backing in there as well.
No, absolutely. And you look at Matson outside of his last start against the White Sox, he's been pretty dominant for most of the season. And what I like about him is he's also been able to get those strikeouts a lot, always up around like the 7 or 8s or so. So that's definitely going to build up fantasy points pretty quickly.
Yeah, definitely. And on the other side, I mean, one, you can talk about the revenge game, John Neese narrative if you want. Mm-hmm. But I mean, you can argue as for Neese being a cheap kind of GPP option just because the Mets. I mean, if Cespedes isn't in the lineup and Wright is out right now, they rank 23rd in WOBA against lefties, and they have a monster 27% strikeout rate. I mean, obviously Neese isn't a good pitcher by any means, but facing this lineup, and you look at the lineup that they threw out yesterday against Fernandez, I could see Neese arguably throwing a quality start against this team.
Yeah, I actually don't mind Neese. It's just if I'm rostering Matz, I want to roster both of them. But the only thing I don't like about him is it might be tough to get the win with Matz going up against them. But the same thing I just said about Pittsburgh's offense, kind of the same thing that's happened with the Mets. They've gotten injured basically all kind of at the same time, and they're throwing names out there who really shouldn't be in certain spots, like Asdrubal Cabrera hitting third at times. So like you said, it's no Cespedes. It's actually not a bad matchup for John Neese.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm kind of a little bit shocked. I mean, over-under of 8 here is relatively big for a PNC Park game, but I think it's kind of going to be a little bit low scoring.
Absolutely.
Next one here, you got the Blue Jays and Tigers. J.A. Happ versus Michael Fulmer. And over-under of 9, Detroit minus 120 favorites. Happ's, I mean, a guy who's pitched relatively well. Going up against this righty-heavy Tigers team, I think it's just kind of a stay away from me. But Fulmer, on the other hand, I can make a case for. One, you look, I mean, his problem has been he's been a little bit home run prone against right-handers. But other than that, I mean, he's pretty solid. He misses a ton of bats, which you like. I mean, you look at Fulmer, I'm trying to find a strikeout right here, or 25%, 11% swinging strike rate. So he's an intriguing GPP option for me.
No, I agree with you a little bit there. It's just I'm probably staying away from attacking Toronto at all. So I think could have a pretty good outing, and he's been really good the last 3 or 4 starts, but I'm staying away from him in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, you look at those couple starts there, they've been against relatively weak opponents, so I think that's also something to consider. I just look at this Jays offense. I mean, they've been fairly boom or bust this year, and they have a big 23% strikeout rate against righties, so that's why I mean, Fulmer's floor is very low against this Toronto team, but I think GPP-wise, you might catch him at lower ownership.
Yeah, absolutely. We have seen the Toronto bats go really quiet in certain games, and like you said, this might be one of those.
Yeah. Your thoughts on Happ?
I'm kind of just really staying away from it. It's a righty-heavy Detroit Tigers lineup. Even though they haven't shown too much, they still have Cabrera, Kinsler, JD Martinez. So, I mean, I'm kind of just staying far away from them, even though it is a decent park. Yeah,
definitely. I think you just look at Vegas. I mean, they're expecting kind of a lot of runs here. And I think more so on the Tigers side, just with all those righties.
No, absolutely. That's why I'm probably for pitching wise just staying away on both.
Yeah. Astros and Rangers here. This is kind of another one. I mean, Mike Fiers versus Colby Lewis, and yes, Lewis has pitched well, but you just look at what he's done this season. I mean, one, poor ground ball rate still. He doesn't miss bats. 16% strikeout rate. Sierra 4.53. The regression is always coming for Lewis, even when he goes through these nice stretches. And I think I was on the Houston Bats last time they faced him, and they didn't do much. But tonight I think it's going to be a different story. And one, I think this game is kind of a void for pitchers.
100% agree. I'm not even thinking about either of these two pitchers. I think they both have some little upside in GPPs because you look at Houston, they're pretty strikeout prone, and Texas at times can not do anything, but I'm just staying away. It's just I have absolutely zero good feelings about the starting pitchers in this matchup.
Yeah, definitely. And next one, we got the Rays and Diamondbacks in Chase Field. Chris Archer versus Robbie Ray. Over-under of 9. Tampa minus 117 favorites. This one, I mean, Chase Field's been extremely friendly for hitters. Chris Archer, I mean, been really poor, I mean, to say the least this season. And the Rays, I mean, are a good team. They have some right-handers that hit lefties well. So I think, once again, at these price tags and with some other guys in consideration, it's another stay away.
The only way I'd play one of these would probably be Archer on DraftKings just because he's under 8,000. But on FanDuel, it's an absolute no at that price tag. But like you said, he hasn't been that good, so that's kind of the reason why his price is so low. I just think there's too many right-handed hitters in this D-backs lineup where he could kind of sort of dominate. There's not too many lefties who could really hurt him. But again, it is Chase Field, and it's one of those things you don't feel 100% comfortable with, but for GPPs, you're never going to.
Yeah, and I mean, Archer, a big strikeout guy, so and you look at Arizona, 22% strikeout rate against righties this year. So you look at Archer, I mean, I don't hate him, but I just think I can't see myself building lives and having a ton of shares of him.
No, just probably a little in GPPs.
Yeah, and then Ray on the other side, I just think I like a lot of these value bats that kind of the right-handers bring here in Tampa, especially a guy like Evan Longoria, who's red hot right now. And I know Geyer's out, and obviously Forsythe's out as well, but they still have some guys capable of hitting left-handers.
No, absolutely. Up and down that lineup is just full of righties outside of Logan Morris, and then they really could do some damage at Chase Field.
Yeah. On some night games here, you got the Indians and Mariners, Trevor Bauer versus James Paxton. 8.5 over-under, relatively large for a Safeco game, so it looks like Vegas is expecting a lot of runs. And on tonight's slate, I mean, these guys just don't really come onto my radar.
No, absolutely. This is one game that I'm going to be targeting with a lot of hitters. If I did have to pick one, I'd probably go with Bauer just for his strikeout upside. But you look at the Mariners' offense with Nelson Cruz and even Kyle Seager kind of getting it going again. So I'm kind of staying away from that. But I do think there's a little upside with his strikeout potential.
Yeah, I mean, Bauer is a guy who can miss some bats, and we have seen it in the past. And also, I mean, a relatively bigger ballpark kind of helps out both these guys as well. But, I mean, still, you look at that Vegas total. I mean, usually we see it in that 7.5 range, and 8.5 is pretty large.
Yeah, definitely not for cash, staying far away.
Rockies and Dodgers here, 7.5 over-under. Dodgers minus 151 favorites. Bolsinger here, I mean, he's a guy I don't really like. I'm not a big fan of him. And I think you look at this Colorado team, I mean, yes, their splits outside of cores are relatively low. But Bolsinger, I think I'm with you as far as if I'm taking a dive down low, it's going to be Duffy instead of Bolsinger.
Yeah, I think Bolsinger kind of has a safer floor than Duffy in this matchup, but I don't know. I'm just not a huge fan of them. You look at the Colorado bats, Arenado and Carlos Gonzalez, they're really heating up now. So it's just something that I really don't want to go down that path.
Yeah, he doesn't have strong numbers. He doesn't miss a lot of bats. So I think that's worth considering. If you had a higher strikeout rate, I would be more tempted to use him. That's just not the case.
No, I agree. I'd probably just go with Duffy at that price point.
Yeah, definitely. And look at Chatwood. I mean, he's a guy who's looking to regress soon. I mean, he's another one, doesn't miss any bats, 4.18 Sierra compared to that 2.99 ERA. And I think against this heavy lefty Dodger lineup that's kind of going with Seager, Gonzalez is picking up a little bit more. it's another stay away situation.
Absolutely. And you even look at Chase Utley, he's not the best, but he's still able to do some damage against righties. And now that they have Trace Thompson hit third yesterday, I think that's kind of an interesting lineup, going lefty, righty, and then you have Gonzalez to kind of protect him. So
yeah, I definitely agree. On to this next one here, and it's Braves Padres, two of the worst offenses in the league, and I'm curious to see how this series shakes up. I mean, on the slate breakdown pods, we were kind of joking around that this might be the highest scoring series for both these teams, and it would just kind of shock everyone out. But
it probably will be, just to be honest with you, and the way that San Diego is playing right now, I wouldn't be surprised with a lot of runs in this matchup.
Yeah, the Padres, I mean, last 2 weeks, top 10 in WOBA. And you look at Williams Perez, I mean, he's not a good arm. So I can kind of see some of these Padres bats being in play tonight. Friedrich is a guy who's overachieved quite a bit this year. Another guy who I just ranked kind of like good Colby Lewis, who's really overachieved as far as being a little bit lucky, doesn't miss many bats. And I think even against a Brave team that isn't good against lefties, that he's just not really in play.
Yeah, I'm staying away from Frederick here. They still have some righties who can kind of do damage, and I know he's getting old, but Jeff Francoeur is still there, and he can still kind of smash the ball every once in a while. So I just, like you said, he's due for a lot of regression, and he just has been playing way above his head, so I'm staying away from him.
Yeah, definitely. So that's going to wrap things up here with the Pitcher Nail Down. Be sure to check out DailyFantasyCafe.com for all our great tools and content.